Hi, and welcome to my presentation on German volume training for St Mary's University, SAC 7105, Training Programme Design. So, what is German volume training? German volume training, or the 10 by 10 method, originated in Germany in the mid-70s and was popularised by Rolf Faeser, who was a national coach of weightlifting. In more recent times, Charles Poliquin has popularised the method. The 10 sets method was used as a general preparation phase to help weightlifters gain lean body mass. It has been claimed that the method is so efficient that lifters routinely moved up a full weight class within 12 weeks. Gains of 10 pounds or more in a 6-week period are not uncommon, even in experienced lifters, they claim. The program is a 3-day training split over 5 days. The program would run for 6 cycles or 6 weeks, and then you can progress onto another variation for 5 further cycles, it states. All the days are split into a classic push-pull sequence, 2 main exercises, normally compound, of a 10 by 10 routine, and then 2 complementary accessory exercises for 3 sets of 10. The prescribed weight would be 60% of your 1 rep max, and you are to use a 4020 tempo for large muscle groups and a 3020 tempo for small muscle groups. 60 seconds rest period, or 90 to 120 seconds if you are supersetting the exercises. From the current research, the moderate rest periods that they advise of 60 to 90 seconds are adequate for maximizing hypertrophic responses. Research indicates that the majority of athletes' strength capacity is recovered within the first minute of recovery. Using shorter rest intervals of under 30 seconds may start to encourage the production of mitochondria. This, coupled with the decreased strength capacity, is not ideal for hypertrophic responses. Moderate rest will aid in the increased capillary and mitochondrial density and the improved capacity of buffering hydrogen and shuttling it out of the muscles, thereby minimizing the performance decrements. There are different types of hypertrophy. So hypertrophy is enlargement of the contractile elements. Hyperplasia is the increase in the number of fibers within the muscle. And sarcoplasmic hypertrophy is an increase in the non-contractile contractile elements and fluid. It can result in a greater muscle bulk without the increase in strength. The majority of exercise-induced hypertrophy as a result of traditional resistance training programs is an increase in the sarcomeres and the myofibrils added in the parallel. Hypertrophy has been shown to occur when a muscle is forced to adapt to a new functional length. It is suggested that this occurs when repeated eccentric contractions are placed upon the muscle. Repeated concentric contractions have been seen to cause a decrease in the sarcomere's length. From mechanical tension signaling pathways are activated, which creates a molecular response that shifts muscle protein balance in the favor of synthesis over degeneration. The primary anabolic signaling pathways are identified as to include AKT-mTOR, MAPK, and calcium-dependent pathways. There are 3 primary factors responsible for initiating a hypertrophic response to resistance training: mechanical tension, muscle damage, and metabolic stress. 10 sets of 10 and the tempo with a 4-second eccentric will create a lot of mechanical tension. When active tension is developed by the contractile elements, the amplitude and the duration of excitation coupling is determined by the motor unit firing frequency, the extent of which are believed to encode signals to various downstream pathways, including CA2+, CAMK2, CAMK1V, and PKC. This sequence of events can enhance a hypertrophic response within the muscle fibers. Numerous studies support an anabolic role of exercise-induced metabolic stress, and some have speculated that metabolite accumulation may be more important than high force development in optimizing the hypertrophic responses to training. With GBT specifically prescribing slow eccentric contractions, passive muscular tension develops because of lengthening in the extra myofibrillar elements, especially collagen content in the extracellular matrix and titin. With GBT training, the athlete will predominantly be working in anaerobic glycolysis. It's been shown that exercise that relies on this for ATP production increases the buildup of lactate, hydrogen ions, inorganic phosphate, creatine, and other metabolites. This may produce a hypertrophic event. If a too greater acidic environment is created through glycolytic training, this may lead to fiber degeneration and increased stimulation of the sympathetic nerve, mediating the hypertrophic adaptive responses. So how much volume is too much volume? Hackett et al. Found that 10 sets was no more effective at increasing muscular strength or hypertrophy than 5 sets, and then went on to recommend 4 to 6 sets per resistance exercise to optimize strength and hypertrophy in trained individuals. The program has 1 session per week per muscle group. In relation to fatigue management, this should be adequate recovery. Due to the extremely high volume of the program, it makes it unviable to train body parts multiple times per week, which has been indicated to be the most efficient method of producing exercise-induced hypertrophy. On Charles Poliquin's website under German volume training, they brag that after the leg session, most athletes don't stop limping for at least 5 days due to the extreme volume of work. This program could be producing too much volume for the stimulus required. The program provides time under tension. Large periods of mechanical tension have been seen to induce neural adaptations as opposed to hypertrophy. Evidence exists that volume should be progressively increased over a given periodized cycle, culminating in a brief period of overreaching. Improvements are thought to be obtained by initiating a rebound effect, where an initial decrease in anabolic drive causes the body to supercompensate by significantly increasing the accumulation of the body's proteins. Prolonged periods of overreaching can rapidly lead to overtrained state. This has a catabolic effect on muscle tissue and is characterized by chronically decreased concentrations of testosterone and luteinizing hormone and increased cortisol levels. Studies show that overtraining is more of a result of excessive volume than intensity. Accordingly, it has been proposed that intense workouts should not last longer than 1 hour to ensure maximum training capacity throughout the session. If an athlete is performing 2 movements for 10 sets of 10, with the tempo prescribed, that is 2 minutes per set, if they take the minimum rest period and don't faff between the sets, the likelihood of them completing this program in under 60 minutes is low. Following the laws of specificity, proper manipulation of training variables is essential for maximizing exercise-induced muscle hypertrophy. Intensity has been shown to have a significant impact on muscular hypertrophy and is arguably the most important exercise variable for stimulating muscular growth. Various studies indicate that moderate rep ranges of 6 to 12 reps optimize hypertrophic responses. The extra time under tension associated with moderate rep schemes as compared to lower rep schemes would theoretically enhance the potential for microtrauma and the fatigability across a full spectrum of muscle fibers. A lot of athletes on the GBT program report not being able to complete the prescribed workload at first, and a lot of the sets achieve failure. Although training to failure does appear to confer hypertrophic benefits, there is evidence that this also increases the potential for overtraining and psychological burnout. The movement selections are very limited and do not change throughout the program. So once you have set your movements, you are following those movements for the duration of the program. This lacking of variety limits the variability of loading through the muscles and reduces the mechanical loading variabilities. In the movements, they do emphasize the lengthening portion of the contraction. Specifically, lengthening exercises associated with more rapid rise in protein synthesis and greater increase in IGF-1 mRNA expression compared to shortening exercises. Moreover, isotonic and isokinetic training that does not include eccentric contractions results in less hypertrophy than those that include lengthening contractions. These pathways help to determine gene expression. Passive tension produces hypertrophic responses that is fiber type specific with an effect seen in the fast twitch fibers and not in the slow twitch fibers. In terms of phasing and where to take the program, there is little to no information on the website. They advise you go back through the GBT block and then moved on to a modified GBT block for 10 sets of 5 reps with a wave loading progression. The program is very specifically designed for hypertrophy, and there is no built-in rest or recovery periods. The individual differences within the program, it doesn't adjust to the lifters. The only way it adjusts is by the exercise that you set yourself. You can progress the weights within a phase if you are completing all 10 sets of 10 with the minimum rest periods. You are supposed to increase it by 4 to 5% if this occurs, but you are not allowed to use any force reps. In conclusion, the current research suggests that German volume training is too much volume for the intended purpose of hypertrophy, and the excessive volume may be detrimental to hypertrophic gains. The research suggests that we should program with the following guidelines for a successful training phase. So to gain hypertrophy requires consideration of many variables as displayed on this slide. GBT fails to accommodate all of these variables and heavily relies on volume to stimulate hypertrophic responses. It comes close but falls short on the current scientific research. I will just run you through my references now.